We took a brief break and we are back. At least in this remote environment, we're back. So this is now Campus Conversations, and of course we are here to highlight those things that make Santa Barbara City College a truly excellent institution. You may have noticed a new tagline, exploring the margin of excellence at SBCC. For those of you that know that terminology, that will sound very familiar to days gone by. But for those newly less familiar with it, that is really the notion that our foundation and your support of it has for many years provided that margin of excellence to the college. So because of our community's generosity and investment in this institution, we really are able to do things at Santa Barbara City College that others may not be able to. And you're actually going to hear today about two really remarkable efforts just recently from our SBCC music folks. As Ray had mentioned, this is part of an ongoing series. We are now first and third Thursday of the month, and you can count on it, he said, with fingers crossed, little asterisks most of the time. But that's what we're aiming for. So stay tuned. We're going to have a lot more to share with you about the things that happen at our community's college. And with that, I'm very happy to introduce you to today's presenters. We are joined today by two faces that I believe are going to be fairly familiar to you. These are two of our famous faculty members in our SBCC music department. And they're going to share with you some things that they have been up to that you may or may not have read about in the media. I'm going to say local media, but it may well have been international media in one of these cases. So I want to let you introduce you to Jim Mooy. So those of you that know Jim know that he is one of our outstanding longtime educators here at SBCC. He has his own degree from UCLA in trumpet performance. And he has been playing with some of the best all over. He is a Music Academy of the West alum, and many of us, of course, do work with that fine institution just down the road. And he currently conducts the Lunch Break Jazz Ensemble. It's a 70-piece group. You have seen them at our recent concerts at Libero. You may have seen them in competitions all over the place. I'm sorry, they're not 70 pieces. It's the 70 pieces, Jim. I'm just adding musicians to your arsenal here. But nonetheless, very happy to introduce you to Jim Mooy here in just a moment. Also joining us is Mr. Tony Ybarra, and Tony is the director of the New World Jazz Ensemble, also a longtime faculty member and well-known musician in our community and beyond. These men are both professionals. Tony has been, you probably heard Tony in some of the things you watch, whether it be on Netflix or in the movies or even in old school television shows, if you remember those. But Tony is a renowned performer and a beloved instructor. And if you know the New World Jazz Ensemble, that is the crew that you are probably most familiar with Tony. Both of these gentlemen and their respective musicians and groups have been part of our last two concerts, featuring our beloved Michael McDonald as well at the Libero Theater in 2018 and 2019. So they're going to tell you a bit about some of the recent experiments and very successful ones here with SBCC Music. So with no further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Tony Ybarra. Tony.
Hey, Jeff. Thank you so much. And thank you, Raisa and the Foundation, for all you do for our students at Santa Barbara City College. Really honored to be a part of this panel and to talk about what we did this summer. Jazz at the cutting edge. Oh boy, we definitely we were cutting some edges here when COVID hit. Every year for at least 30 plus years, we have hosted a summer jazz seminar at SBCC Music, started by one of our full-time faculty members, Dr. Chuck Wood, many years ago. And it's continued on. Jim took it over for a good 20 years and kept this great program happening. And I was the lucky one to inherit it for the first year during COVID. This summer jazz seminar is so special. I think we might have been one of the first community colleges to really offer it way back when. In fact, I took it as a junior high student back in 19 and I just loved it. I loved it. And, as someone growing up in this community, I didn't have access to lessons at that age, so I relied on the amazing music programs the schools offered. And knowing that there was a program that was open to kids my age in junior high at that time was amazing. I got a chance to work with some great professionals and really expand my knowledge of jazz. So it was a true honor to take this over. And then, of course, COVID hit, the world stopped, and, well, what are we going to do? And before I get into that, I definitely want to acknowledge and thank Jim and the foundation for reaching out and getting an incredible grant from the Tobes Fund for the Performing Arts at the Santa Barbara Foundation. This grant allowed us to bring in clinicians to work with our students. Initially, we were going to have them come in, host them for a couple weeks, and have them work one-on-one with our students. But since we couldn't do that, we were able to bring up to 15 clinicians to do virtual master classes, and all of them were well accepted. Our superstar clinician, I called him, was John Patitucci, one of the most world-renowned bassists of his generation, multi-Grammy Award winner, started his career with Chick Corea, and started his career really in LA going to college. And his presentation really resonated with our students, starting with where he came from, music in his house, how he picked an instrument, onto playing bar mitzvahs and weddings and any gig he can get in LA, until he worked his way up to becoming a session musician and going on the road with the great Chick Corea. All these clinicians were so inspiring, and we were so grateful to the foundation and the Tobes Fund for this opportunity. So come April, everything moved over to online, and I'm thinking, how are we going to do this? I'm pretty, I like to think I have good ideas most of the time, and I thought, well, it's possible to make this work. And my faculty that I chose, we brainstormed for a few weeks, tested things out, kind of crafted some classes that we thought would really work. And through that time, we put together a curriculum that seemed to really happen online. During this time, playing together wasn't an option. That took some time, and Jim will definitely talk about what he went through. So much for having a summer off, Jim. Right? So we decided we can go forward on the Zoom platform and teach jazz in a way that would engage the students to perform with us. Even though we're not performing together, we could talk about concepts that usually students will get in a 4-year music school. And fortunately, our faculty that we have during the Summer Jazz Seminar had such diverse backgrounds and were A-list studio musicians and long-time jazz professionals. We got into the nitty-gritty of developing the jazz language, which students typically don't get until they're much older. And what does that mean? So one of our clinicians, Dr. Ron McCurdy from USC, brought this into a beautiful place of understanding, where when you look back in the history of jazz only developed here in the United States. People were brought from Africa to the South America to other places in the world, but jazz developed here. Why is that? And, the short answer is that because the tribes of West Africa, where many slaves were brought over, the community were all musicians, poets, dancers, drummers. That was just the nature of the community. Coming here to the new land, the drums were taken away, but singing and dancing were still part of their culture, and it was passed down through generations. So the method of interpreting music was born here, which developed into the jazz language, the idea of creating something new out of something that's been done many times and embellishing it in a new way. So what we're talking about is creativity. How do you teach creativity? Everyone loves creativity. Everyone is creative, but teaching jazz is a language. And so we got to get in there and work with these students, some as young as 11 years old, all the way up to those who have been retired for some time. And we were able to dive in on, okay, if I'm going to play a chord, I've played this chord forever. What else can I do with it? We got to study the masters, the great jazz masters, and listen and break it down, and said, hey, they had these same 12 notes, but they did this with it. How would you do this with your own ideas and your own creativity? And it was so much fun. It was so much fun. The students, we had well over 50, almost 60 students that signed up, and if they were students, junior high or high school, Santa Barbara Unified School District, students, they got in for free. It was taken care of. And 6 weeks of 4 classes a week, we had a lot of fun. Everything we presented was reinforced by our clinicians, the develop of the musical language, honoring the compositions, listening. It was quite surprising how much everyone really enjoyed the process. And as someone who has had my full musical training here in Santa Barbara before I moved to LA to go to school, I was so grateful of these opportunities. I know so many students who don't have the funds or the resources to take private lessons or work with specific musicians. They depend on the music education programs in school, which sadly over the last few decades have diminished. And we are so grateful to those who support the arts. And when you support the arts, you're really supporting the artists and the educators so that they can share their knowledge, their gift, the tradition, the crafts to students. And they get that opportunity to learn from those who have studied from their teachers and mentors, who are, some of them were the great artists of their time. So here at Summer Jazz, what we did is create a virtual online experience. And behind me is the poster we used to promote our program. Students sounded so great. Sadly, we couldn't video any of it because we had minors, but they really developed a nice shape to their musical ability. They learned how to approach music and be creative and take risks. Even if it sounded bad or they hit a bad note, that didn't matter. It was more of, oh, okay, that sounded good. I'll work on that some more. And the spark and the enthusiasm was kind of blew me away. We were kind of holding our breath and crossing our fingers that this would work, and all the faculty were pleasantly surprised that it worked. We introduced jazz vocalists for the first time, which is an integral part of the jazz language, and we had an overwhelming positive response to that. You know, vocalists don't often get a chance to work with other musicians, but here we're merging that marriage and understanding that we're all in the same playing field. Jazz is an American art form. It's a democratic art form. It's an art form that requires everyone working with one another and listening and responding. And if you're not taught how to learn those traits, students are left guessing. And oftentimes they don't necessarily know what they're saying. They may see the words of another language and don't know how to put them together. In this situation, we were helping develop musical poetry, how to take this language, be creative, and have fun with that. And we are lucky to transfer this over to our fall semester with our jazz improvisation course. We don't always get to do this when we're face-to-face because we're working together, we're working towards a piece of music. But to really analyze this stuff is what four-year universities do. And I really appreciated that knowledge when I got to USC. But now that I can bring it back to my alma mater, it's so much fun to share this with students. So now our students are prepared, even more so than I was, to express themselves and develop their own sound. And understanding jazz will allow students to go in any direction they want to go. They'll have the technique, they'll have the ear training, they'll have the creativity, and the energy to make some beautiful music. So thank you again for inviting me to be a part of this panel, and I'll turn it back over to you, Jeff.
Great. Thanks so much, Tony. Really appreciate it. When we get into the Q&A, we're definitely going to dive a little bit into that Summer Jazz series and what that means in our community, and folks hopefully will take away with them just how rare it is to have an opportunity like this at a community college. So thank you so much. I'm now going to turn it over to Jim Mooy, and what I'm going to say about this, and I didn't want to set it up in the intro, Jim, but I'm just going to introduce the word jamulous. Today is just jamulous. And with that, Mr. Jim Mooy.
Thank you. Indeed, jamulous. So I was faced in March. Well, I knew that we weren't coming back for fall. I just knew we weren't coming back in fall. And based on what had happened earlier in this century, it didn't look like it was going to be a couple of months. So I started making plans on March 13th for August. And it really was a search of desperation for how can we rehearse with groups while they're sitting in their bedrooms. And I know that sounds really weird. Like Jeff had said earlier, I conduct a 70-piece orchestra, and I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could get the concert band 100 pieces and the orchestra 70 pieces? Wouldn't it be great if we could rehearse and everybody's in their living room? That's got, this is 2020. We got to be able to do this. Yeah, 2020, right? Okay. So I decided to go out and figure out what technologies there were out there that we could actually play together using the internet live. And surprisingly, there aren't any, because the internet is not built for instantaneous speed. It's built for reliability. For instance, right now, even though this signal is the source is my house in Goleta, and it will end up at a server at City College, it is likely bouncing down to Irvine, making a transfer in LA back over to the network that City College uses, which is not Cox, by the way, but it's still good. In any case, you get the idea. Just to get from here to City College, it's bouncing all the way down to Irvine, and that takes time. The speed of light takes time, and it takes a while for the signal to get to light fiber. What that means is latency, delay. And we can't, as musicians, play. If I'm clapping like this, I'm watching my picture on Zoom, and my picture is going, it's about a half a beat behind. Well, that's a real problematic when you are dealing with 70 musicians. Okay, 2 musicians. So finding a technology that didn't have that latency was the challenge. There's several technologies out there, but not all of them are easy to use or easy to install. And Jamulus was one that was just coming up from a developer in Germany named Volker Fischer. And Volker was wonderful in that he was hands-on with people like me who were just getting into this and trying to figure out how to make schools be able to perform music from the comfort of their bedrooms. So he would listen to our input, and he would make changes to the software. In particular, James Watson had a feature that just came out in this edition of the software that he had proposed. James Watson in the music department has just been invaluable working with me to get this to happen. So we end up, Jamulus is free. That's another great thing. It's free software. You install it on a server close by, and when I play my instrument, the signal goes from my computer to that server. And then if 5 other people are doing that, all their signals go to the server, and then I get a single stream back of all their signals. And it enables us to actually play together in real time over the internet. Instead of the delay being pop, pop, the delay is pop, pop. So it's a much, much quicker delay. There is still a little bit of latency because that's just the way the internet works, unfortunately. But it's enabled us to play together. Now, we figured out very early on, I made a server just to put up in my second story of my house. And I had the orchestra and concert band all dial into it. And we figured out very early on that this was not for everybody. You really needed a nice interface, a box that processed a good signal from a microphone. And then you also needed somebody who could at least run an installer on their computer, either Mac or PC. And not everybody in the orchestra and concert band could do that. So between that and the sheer numbers of people, we decided just to narrow it down to our jazz ensemble. So we have 3 20-piece big bands that are performing together and rehearsing together in real time right now over the internet. And we're really, really pleased to be able to do that. It's something that I honestly wasn't sure would work. It was one of those things where if you build it, they will come. Does that make sense? So we built it. We put the server in place. I applied for some CARES Act funding to get MIDI interfaces and digital audio interfaces and microphones for the musicians. And so we've been able to supply them with that. The hardest thing is to get them to be able to plug a cable directly from their computer into their router at home, because it doesn't work very well over Wi-Fi. But it worked. And it's working. It's kind of amazing. I met a guitar player on this program called Jamulus. I just decided to drop in on some rooms and start playing with other people. There's lots of little rooms in Jamulus where you go in and there's no video. It's just audio. And I saw this guy, Grant, and this kid found out he's 20-year-old a 20-year-old from UCLA, great school. Sorry, Tony. Tony went to USC, so we are constantly at it. But Grant is a UCLA guy, 20 years old, great guitar player. We started playing together, and guess who's playing in the Santa Barbara City College Jazz Ensemble this semester? Grant. And guess where he's playing from? San Carlos. So I just had a rehearsal with a guitar player from San Carlos, and my bass player today, he had a Zoom meeting that conflicted. So I met a bass player on Jamulus from Palo Alto, and he came and sat in on the session today. So today, with the City College students, we had a guitar player in real time, mind you. We're all playing tunes together. One was in San Carlos and one was in Palo Alto. It's just extraordinary that we're able to do this. I want to show you really quickly what it might look like. This is actually a video that I took of the pro band playing. Let me see if I can get this to share real quick. And you'll notice the audio and video are a little bit offset, unfortunately. That's because Zoom lags. Zoom is behind. And so you're going to hear the audio before you see the video move. And it's a little herky-jerky because this is a recording of a YouTube stream that I threw out there. But just it should give you an idea of what it looks like. So here we go.
Yeah, guys.
And so that gives you an idea. Of course, the sound is it's not perfect, but we can play together in real time. And we use Zoom just as kind of like I think it's more of a psychological thing. It helps us feel like we're all in the same room together, even though it's a little bit behind. And it gives us the ability to really rehearse. With this technology now, I am able to cut the band off if I hear something that needs improving. We're able to work on intonation, playing in tune, right? That's kind of key. Balance. We're able to work on blending. We're able to work on style. Things that it's very hard to work on when you're asynchronous. But the fact that we're doing this in sync all together is something that is extraordinary. IT department at City College has been awesome. Jim Clark and Brandon Lovelace configured our server. We got a sweet deal through Cox Cable to make this all work and get us a business modem installed on the campus. We're having a few issues with that, but we'll get it happening. Our future plans include maybe joining something called the Jamulus World Jam, which is a worldwide concert of Jamulus users. Most users are only at about 4 or 5 people. We have 20. So we're really extraordinary and pioneering the software in that regard. Also, what I'd like to do is stream live YouTube concerts where everybody else is doing these things that are asynchronous. They build it track by track, and then eventually they'll say, here's these wonderful pieces of music. We're going to play it in real time, live on YouTube. It could crash and burn. It could be amazing. And that is I think, something in live music that all these young musicians need. They need the immediacy of the art. So I'll keep talking. So you better cut me off, Jeff and Raisa.
No worries. We're gonna keep you talking with questions. So that's just
Okay.
fine.
This is how you cut off. You go like that.
Yeah, and scene. Thank you.
You're pros. I'll take some cues from you on that. All right. Well, so thank you both for just the overview there of 2 of these fabulous experiences. I want to tell folks a few just quick facts and details. Some of these you mentioned, some I'm not sure you did, but this summer the jazz what we did, I should say, the SBCC Summer Jazz program was really the only thing out there in our region. I mean, the San Francisco, San Jose, Kreitzer, the chair of the department just sent a prompt to say, make sure you tell people that everybody else was closed and we were open. So that itself is an amazing thing. And that speaks, I want to say, just to both of your commitments, and we work together in various venues, but that is no surprise to me or those who know you. But I want to acknowledge that. And with the Jamulus technology, which is new, and Jim, you did say this is really you're doing a a first in the country, maybe first in the world experiment with a new technology.
Academically, we're the first in the world to have 20 people, never mind 3 bands of 20 people. But yeah, we're the first in the world. There's one professional big band in Germany doing this, but not as often as we are, and not to the degree that we are. So it's pretty groundbreaking. I'm really pleased that it hasn't completely imploded.
So are we, Jim. So what I just want to make sure people understand, and of course the idea here with all of these sessions is to really showcase the work that happens at SBCC. But I want to talk maybe a little bit with each of you about the reasons why. I mean, it was probably among the first things I learned when I joined the foundation 5 or so years ago. And I sort of asked around. I knew something of SBCC. I've lived in Santa Barbara for 30 years. You can't not know something about SBCC. But when I was asking about some of the innovative things that were happening, and I started to learn about the competitions that the student musicians were in, and the bands that you both lead. You know, these are not small. This is not down the street competition. These are international festivals. And can you say a little bit, Jim, about that and what that looks like, and some of the, I mean, if nothing else, just brag for a few minutes, but
Sure.
Talk maybe the strategy of why you think it's important to involve student musicians at City College at that level.
So we're the only community college that has ever qualified, made it as a finalist for the Monterey Next Gen Jazz Festival 3 years in a row. The Monterey Next Gen Jazz Festival is where there's 5 bands that make the finals, and they compete against each other. The only problem is for the collegiate division, it is every college in the world, USC, UNLV, UCLA. We were competing against, it's like Davy and Goliath 3 years in a row. We went in there against USC's A band. In fact, our bass player from the first year got a 4-year, he met people at the festival, got a 4-year free ride to USC, and we ended up competing against our own bass player the following year while he was playing with USC. So it's really, and the importance of that, of course, is our students get to mingle with all these great 4-year school programs. And the 4-year schools look at us as though they give us respect because, you know, we've made it that far. And so it's been nothing but great for our students in terms of getting opportunities to go to schools that are very prestigious, and to do it either at a very discounted rate or absolutely free. And in some cases, maybe even make a little money in the process.
Thank you. I mean, it's such an impressive feat, and it's become a norm really for City College, which I think is important because this is sort of part of the culture you all created with the department. Now you're both professional musicians. You're both professionally trained, academically trained professionals in your own right. Tony, you and I met years ago before I had an affiliation with the college or foundation, because someone introduced me to you as the guy I needed to call to play at various events. So, well, if you want a guitarist that can do really anything, call this guy Tony Ybarra, and so we met that way. And if I'm not mistaken, Tony, you have six CDs out, 6 recordings out.
Yeah, I think 6. One of which was with one of our faculty members, Ken Riles, as well. And yeah, just 6 recordings we put out. I put out, some got onto movies and TV shows, and a lot of it was just a way to express all the creativity I was given when I was a student here. And it's important for me to note that both Jim and I are both alumnus of SBCC Music at different times, respectively.
So let me ask you then about that professional experience, because you both have it. But Tony, maybe you could speak to this piece. But what is the value as a faculty member, as a teacher, for these young musicians, or not? I mean, really, musicians of all ages are in your courses. What is the value of having that firsthand professional experience? I can't help but imagine that it has a lot. I mean, there's one thing to teach music theory and to be technically gifted at your craft, but to have the experience of being out there, performing all, doing the recording, doing all these innovative things. How does that affect your teaching, and how do you feel that ups the game with the department?
When I took over the New World Jazz Ensemble, or we used to be called our A combo, our advanced combo, one of the things I wanted to create was a real world environment. How to work together as a group of musicians who come from different backgrounds and how to play together as a band, but also how to uh, work in a professional environment. So one of our goals and our assignments were we were going to get gigs. We were going to get 3 hours of material ready. We are going to have a set list. We are going to work together to just create a performance without me holding their hand and saying this is what you have to do and to say this and say this and nope, okay, you guys count it off and I get to sit back and watch and let them take over. And through that, they learned how to negotiate with each other on stage, what's acceptable etiquette for a gig, and also the little nuances such as have your music ready. You know, nothing's worse when you finish a song and what are we going to play next? And oh, I don't know. What do you want to play? Well, I don't know. What does the drummer want to play? We don't listen to the drummer. And all this time goes by. It's no, you understand how to craft a set. You pick out tunes that you know you can play and don't try to play something that you're not ready to play yet. So I learned those just kind of trial and error on the street, so to speak. And I wanted to install those properties and those elements to their music training. As well as they were learning the music, they had to learn how to be professionals too, because no matter where they end up, the etiquette's still the same. You want to play a blues in St. Louis, it's going to be the same as playing a blues in New York or in Europe. People know what to do, know how to count it off. So that was really important to me. And our last New World Jazz Ensemble, they didn't need me at all. I just got a chance to sit back and relax and watch them do their stuff. And 3 of our students are now at 4-year music schools. Sergio Rodriguez, our trumpet player, just texted with them today. He's having a great time at USC. And 2 other students are at Northridge, Julian Littlehale and Aaron Price, and they're both just doing great stuff. So my hope is that I send them off with the tools needed to continue their development and not feel like, oh, you know, overwhelmed with, I don't really know what I'm doing. No, they don't.
Outstanding. Well, that's the answer I was looking for. Jim, what about you? I mean, as a professional musician, how does that change how you do what you do as a faculty member?
Expectations. My expectations for the students is I want them to behave in a way that's going to get them work, that's going to make them that's going to make contractors want to call them. Just today, I humiliated one of my students with love and kindness because this kid knows I love him. The band knows I love this kid. But he never answers his emails. And you can't get a gig if you don't answer your email. It's just, it's one of the, I said, Kevin, I shouldn't have said his name, but, but I said, Kevin, I want you to work. I want you to be in demand, but you have to communicate with people. Yeah. Okay. And he gets it. And that's the thing is, I see myself in these kids so much. I just see myself and so I can't be mad at them. Because it was me. I'm like I said, you know, like Tony said, we're students from here. I was on the 3-year plan here. I wasn't going to be a teacher. I wasn't going to be poor. My dad was a teacher. Well, guess what? I love teaching, and I just didn't want to. I wanted to make a lot of money, and I took my first year here at UCLA, and I went, oh gosh, I just want to do what I love. I love teaching music. And I thought, okay, I'm going to teach and play on the side. And I ended up getting to do it and be here. And I want all the students that are in my bands to be able to take any gig they want, even if they decide to be a teacher or a contractor. I still want them to be able to play any gig and act like a responsible musician would, who's got to line up gigs and respond in a timely manner.
So when Jeff Green calls you and offers you too little money to play a fundraiser for this little organization down the street, you have the sense and ability to respond appropriately. So,
yeah, and still get him to pump out a few more bucks for you. Yep.
But also at the same time to value that opportunity. There are gigs where it's maybe not what we'd like, but it's an opportunity to, if you're in a new place, to network. It's an opportunity to gain some some status from other people in the community, and you never know who's at a gig. You never know.
Ain't that the truth?
Exactly, exactly. So you never take any gig for granted. You play it well every single time.
Yep.
Well, so you both referenced something in your comments, opening comments, and Tony, I think you said it first, and I want to ask you both this same question. You said, how do you teach creativity? I think you asked it semi-rhetorically when you were talking about the summer jazz, but to me that's a real question, because I get, I'm a mediocre guitar player. I took lessons. I love it as a hobby. That's a whole different thing than getting out there and improvising and playing with a band of folks in real time and learning how to do that next level work. So when it comes to creativity, how do you teach creativity, or how do you think through teaching creativity? Is it making the space for student just to have the skills to just go, or is there such a thing as creating a way to teach creativity in a musical sense? I realize you could probably write a dissertation on that, but I'm curious if either of you can share something. Tony, maybe you can start.
I'll give it a shot, because it's interesting. When it comes to jazz, it's such a profound art form that you can pick up a book about learning how to improvise, and you need a PhD in astrophysics to understand what this person is talking about, because it goes so in depth. And at the same time, you can just listen to something and pick it up, and there it is. Everyone's unique, and everyone, I've found, students learn jazz differently, and teachers teach it differently. It all starts with listening. For me, it all starts with understanding what you're reaching for. You listen to an artist. You listen to someone that inspires you, that gets that energy up, and like, wow, I really want to do that. I want to sound like that. And then with that, then you apply it to your instrument, and you can only go as far as your technique will take you. So oftentimes students want to go ahead and start making this great music, but they're held back by their technique. So it's kind of you have to have the tools in order to express your art. And then there's the philosophy. I have my guitar here, and it's about, my guitar's going to cut in and out, but if you play a note, that's one note. There's a lot of things to say with this one note. Where do we go? Do we go up? Do we go down again? And what am I doing? I'm creating a melody right away. Is to understand the power of a melody, how much that carries through in our musical language, is to how to create melodies and then hear harmony and embellish it. So being creative, everyone loves it. It's fun, but it is a lot of work. And it's something that I always encourage my students to keep. You got to work on all aspects. You got to develop your knowledge and understanding of what you want to play, develop your technique, and then take risk. Be creative. Try something. Jazz is about taking risks. It doesn't always work out, but we move around it. We change it. We come back up, and we play something else. So it's a matter for me when I work with a student, how to navigate their understanding of creativity and manage their technique at their level, and develop that at the same time so they can be more expressive with the tools they have. Thank you.
Thanks for pulling your guitar out of your virtual background. That was a good trick. Appreciate it. Jim, any thoughts for you on how do you think about creating or teaching creativity when you're teaching musicians?
He really just nailed it. Same thing. Okay. See, there we go. So if I just play, I could just play something in a very stylistically square manner. Okay, that was very straight ahead. But they don't teach you how to start a note like this. But boy, that has something to say. That sound. We don't learn those sounds when I'm playing the Haydn or the Hummel. I didn't learn those sounds at the Music Academy of the West. I learned those sounds by listening to Charlie Parker play saxophone, Dizzy Gillespie play trumpet, Clifford Brown. And so getting that it's like getting an entirely new set of words to play with.
Right.
It's a new skill set. It's a new vocabulary, and you're saying different things. Like Tony was talking about actually changing pitches, going up and down, but I can do it just in one note without, and he can do it too he can bend notes all over the place. That says something, and that says emotionally, that has a very different context emotionally than the first example that I played. So I think that's, when Tony talks about the profoundness of what we do, for me, it's feeling a certain way, being able to get that out the end of what is essentially an exhaust pipe. My trumpet it's all it is an exhaust pipe. How do I get emotions out of that? Well, all those things he talked about.
Thank you both for that. Now you just both hinted at the fact that this is a small but mighty music department we have here at SBCC. You really cover an amazing range of musical styles and different, these different performance groups, and they're all coming out of this one small department. And maybe this is a good time, and I want to just acknowledge the passing of one of your colleagues, who was a fabulous vocalist and vocal instructor, Ken Riles, who we lost unexpectedly just days ago, really. Can you talk a little bit about this? Is this a tight-knit group? How much time do you all spend together? How do you work together within the department? You've all got your courses, just like any faculty member, but something tells me that there's a lot of connection internal in that department, from what I see.
Tony, you want to field this one?
I'll start off, and I'll hand you the baton. One thing that's been really special about our department in the last 10, 15 years is that a lot of alumni have come back to teach. I remember joining SBCC Music around '94, and most of the faculty were there. I remember when Jim was hired. I remember when Nathan was hired, and it was a very inspiring group of faculty, even back then, and it was fantastic to come back and be asked to come back and teach in the same rooms that we were students in. So I think because I've known Jim and I've known Nathan and John Clark for so long, and even Eric Heidner, I knew him from high school. He's a local SB alum as well. We have this long relationship in our department that spans almost 3 decades now. So we know each other a bit. We know each other, and we know our quirks and what we like to do and our strengths, and we support that exceptionally well. That's been something that's really been beautiful about our department, is that we're given our tasks and we are supported 100% in fulfilling our tasks and developing our students. And with that, I'm going to pass that over to you, Jim.
I just think we're extremely eclectic, and a lot of this has to do with the fact that John Clark, while he was department chair, hired a lot of fine musicians and teachers as adjuncts. Our adjuncts are a huge strength. We had a position that one of our instructors had retired, and that position hasn't been replaced, and it's been very difficult to keep the same amount of performances that we have prided ourselves on with a smaller faculty, a smaller full-time faculty. So the fact that we have adjuncts that are just killing it, they're amazing, fine players. Valerie Malvini teaching strings. Linda Holland, Dr. Holland is an incredible talent. We're so fortunate to have her. Ed Smith, Tony, Dave Campos, Andrew Martinez, who you saw in the clip there, leading the pro band. I'm going to leave somebody out, and I'm going to feel terrible. James Watson is the heart of our department. Nicole DeShane, oh my gosh, of course. Vocal side. James Joyce, not James Joyce, Thomas Joyce.
Thomas Joyce.
Sorry, I've been in too many bars around town. Sorry. Thomas Joyce, an incredible organist and director as well. And of course, our fearless leader now, Nathan Kreitzer, who took over from Dr. John Clark. We're just very, very fortunate to have so many people who are at the top of their game. So I want to see that full-time position come back. I can tell you that much. So I'm officially on camera now. I'm officially rallying for this.
Well, thank you both. So
Thank you.
I think that's important for people to understand just what a mighty department we have, and of course when we have these experiments, Summer Jazz Series being the only one, the only clinic happening when everyone else has gone dark, or the Jamulus experiment with 20 live musicians 3 times over, and nobody else is doing it. It really that doesn't just happen. That comes from a really dedicated place and a group of folks that have worked together a long time, and both are exemplary leaders of that. So we're in our last few minutes here. I want to give you both a chance to say any final words about what folks should know and where they can go for more information. I think we all know that we're in a time of just layer upon layer of new frontier and crisis in some cases. So whether it's budget challenge, enrollment challenge, this department is beloved, and what can be done to make sure that you can remain as strong as possible, and what else can folks know about how to learn more about what you do?
So I'm going to chime in right away, because as soon as you started talking, even before I see something pop up in the chat there, I'm thinking this also takes a supportive administration and the help of our amazing foundation. The foundation has been so integral in helping us move forward. And we can't thank you enough, you and everybody who works at the foundation now and in the past. It's been nothing but great. So I just want to say thanks so much. We are so fortunate. I'm not just kissing up. I don't have to. I'm tenured, right? So
I'll do that. I'm agile.
But seriously, I'm really, really, it's been incredible and just an honor to work with you and everybody who functions at such a high level at the foundation. And we just hope our administration, with all the changes we've been having, continues to support us. It's very important that everybody understands that music and arts are not just a hobby. No. Music and arts are a lifetime career, and they can be a hobby and they can get you through some rough times, but I think they're more important to humanity than just being a hobby. Right. Anthony?
Most definitely, Jim. And, wow, you said everything so well. This department, what I marvel and I'm so proud to be a part of, is that when difficulties or something happens and we're told, no, we can't do this, we find a way to make it happen. We put our heads together, we pull our resources together, and we make it work. This summer jazz camp and the Jamulus are just some of the examples of what this department does, and we will do everything we can to create the environment our students need to grow. And I so applaud Jim and James for their diligent work to make Jamulus work. We are so grateful to have such a great faculty that support one another in this. And once again, Jeff and the foundation, thank you so much. Your involvement in our department helped us create 2 shows that will live on for a long, long time. Our 2 fundraising concerts at the Libero with Michael McDonald, who's a big fan of our department, who is so inspired by what the students are doing here, and he has been so grateful and gracious with his time to be a part of our program and to help us succeed. He's a big fan of our department and what we do as educators. So we are very grateful to be able to do this and continue to nurture the talent in this town. This town is based off of tradition and the arts. We're very special here in Santa Barbara. We support our arts, and this is where we will continue developing our artistic programs, because they matter in society. They matter during these times, to have expression and a place to be creative and a place to go and learn these from wonderful, wonderful music professors. So thank you so much, Jeff, for all you've done. I really appreciate it, hermano.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I want to say that Dr. Utpal Goswami, our superintendent president, and Dr. Pamela Ralston, our VP, executive vice president, have all voiced support for trying to figure out ways to keep the department strong. It's a tough time, we know. I know Elizabeth Imhoff, our fabulous new dean of arts and humanities, just weighed in on the chat to say, sign up, take a class. That's one more way you can support SBCC music. So
thank you, Dr. Imhoff.
All that
welcome.
That innovative and creative thinking that's going on here. So in closing, I just want to thank you both. You, as I said at the outset, you're both fantastic leaders, Jim Mooy and Tony Ybarra of our SBCC Music Department. And I also want to note that we filmed that last concert, Tony, didn't we?
We did, and it's being mixed as we speak.
So we will, before long, if you missed that last SBCC Music with Michael McDonald concert in the fall of 2019, we have a beautiful recording of it. Our friends at Mentality put it together in the most professional of ways, and we're getting it mixed right now. And so we'll share that with our community. This session, if you just heard about it or you regret 5 minutes from now that you didn't join us, we'll let everybody know that you can spread the word that we do record these. We post them at sbccfoundation.org, now under the heading Campus Conversations at sbccfoundation.org. So you can relive this moment again and again. And I do think that it's probably appropriate at this point to dedicate today to the memory of Ken Riles, one of our fabulous faculty, which I mentioned earlier. So just thank you all for joining us. Thank you to the community that has signed on here, all those who took the moment to put something in our chat box. And I really appreciate you, Jim and Tony, for today. I want to thank my own team, my colleagues, Raisa Smorrell and Rachel Johnson and Jennifer LeMay, who make this happen. We're learning as we go. And final word is thank you, gentlemen, for keeping the music alive in a remote environment. It's hard to do, and I really appreciate what you've done here.
Thank you for having us. Supporting the music and everything you've done, the foundation, and Jeff.
Great. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you all.